One.
In my junior year of college, this one night, I had the strangest dream. I dreamt that I was sitting next to the train tracks as an enormous train roared past. Every window was empty except for one. I saw a face screaming at me, waving frantically, pleading with me. I recognized her as a girl on my floor, one I didn't really know. Hours later, in the pre-dawn hours, the whole floor was awoken by the residence hall staff and police because that girl had gone out that night, waited for a train, and then laid down on the tracks.
Two.
A few months ago, I had a dream that I was getting verbally abused by a ghost-like figure. I woke up suddenly, and as I did, I distinctly heard a woman scream loudly into my ear, "Ah!" as if it was a childish attempt to scare me. I know it wasn't a dream because I didn't fall back asleep that night. I can still remember the voice in my head like it's burned into my brain. It freaks me out that I could have had this dream and then hear it in real life. Later, I also had a dream that was similar, where I was being attacked by a monster that then slashed my back with its claws. When I woke up, I had severe pain and spasms in my back, and I felt something pushing from under my bed. I feel like my dreams are far too real.
Three.
One weekend, when I was 7 years old, my parents went out of town. My grandparents live about an hour away, so I went to stay with them. It was a normal visit, quiet as usual. Sometime after dinner, I got my pajamas on, read some books, and went to bed. I had a dream that night. I was thrown into a room with nothing but a stuffed moose head. It asked me if I wanted scary or extra scary, but threw me down a chute before I could respond. It was a long journey down filled with horrendous things: dead bodies, mutilated animals, possessed children, and more. After I finally hit the bottom, I woke up. After thinking about the nightmare I just had, I got up, walked around my room, and looked in the mirror. I was scared shitless at what I saw. My entire body was made of shapes. My head was a red triangle, my neck a blue rectangle, my legs composed of multiple yellow hexagons. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and being 7 years old, I started screaming and crying at the sight of my reflection. I ran into the kitchen where my grandma was, and I asked her if I was made of shapes. She laughed and said no, so I ran back to my room to see if she was right, and she was. When I looked at my reflection again, I looked normal. I will never forget that.
Four.
I was sleeping at my grandparents' house upstairs. They had this huge corridor with stairs and a giant chandelier, which I found pretty scary at the time. In my sleep, I was dreaming that I was walking down the stairs, and the chandelier started shaking violently, swinging above me. I felt being watched, and it was seriously scary. I woke up that morning in bed, feeling lucky because it was a nightmare. But when I got downstairs, my mom, who was also there, told me that I was sleepwalking, and she found me standing in that corridor, staring up at the ceiling that night. Luckily, my grandparents moved from that house a few years later because I never felt at ease there.
Five.
I think about this all the time. It was about 4 years ago when I kept getting these weird dreams about a young girl. She was not creepy or haunting looking. She was actually very pretty. She had long dark hair. That's what I remember the most. In my dreams, she kept telling me about a person who hurt her. She kept writing his name a lot. She was really friendly, and I tried helping her in my dreams. It was weird, but a pretty cool dream to me. I told it to many people because it sounded like a ghost story. Several weeks later, I had a very tough day at school. I was preparing for an exam, and I was so tired that I went to bed. I remember that I could not even turn off the light and fall asleep. I was awoken by the sound of this loud noise as if something was blowing into my ears. To explain it better, it was like white noise. I felt like my body was being crushed by rocks, and something on top of me was so heavy that it prevented me from breathing. I kept gasping for air and trying to open my eyes, but I couldn't. My wrists were very heavy as if someone was holding them. I heard a loud screaming, then a loud pitched voice with the words, "I am going to kill you." I was still struggling to gasp for air, and then I felt my eyes tearing up. I was so scared. I managed to somewhat open my eyes to see nothing. When I fully opened my eyes, everything was back to normal. There was no sound. The light was on and my room was the way I remembered it. I went back to sleep, convinced that it was one of those bad dreams or sleep paralysis that I had never before experienced, and the stress from my day that made me have a nightmare. I woke up in the morning, my lungs were in pain, and when I looked at my wrists, they were red and bruised. My thighs were all bruised as well. To this day, I still do not understand what happened. To whom I have told this story, everyone says that maybe she is trying to tell me what happened. I'll probably never know. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the show. If you have a story to share, send us an email, like us on Facebook, share, like, and subscribe.